one more week, a couple more days before we know our advance rates. We get to post our advance rates on social media, be upset at how terrible it is, be excited for how good it is. Somewhere in the middle, look through all of our teams, figure out how live we think we are in Best Ball Mania, and DraftKings, and all of these different tournaments. But what do we got to sweat here for week 14? We got some big games. We got Bills, Bengals. We got a lot to look forward to in week 14, and we got to figure out what can get us some more teams, what can get us some more shots on goal in the best ball playoffs. I'm going to dive into some of mine. We'll look at some of yours, and we'll figure out how we can win some of these best ball tournaments by getting just a few more teams through in week 14. Let's do it. All right, guys, happy Friday. What a doozy of a Thursday night football game. I guess I should start by saying, if you've not joined us here before on this Spike Week YouTube channel, please give us a subscribe, give us a like, all that fun stuff. It's playoff best ball season, but it is also, of course, the best ball playoffs. I just had my wife and I just went to the bookstore. It was her birthday recently. She's the most avid reader I've ever met in my entire life. It's her big hobby. So we took her to the bookstore for a spending spree today, actually. And along the way, she is a wonderful woman who tries to understand some of our world, right? Our best ball sicko world. And explaining the best ball playoffs, which is, of course, what we're talking about today, versus playoff best ball is always like, she's like, wait, which one are you talking about again? Right. But the beauty of us here, the beauty of the Spike Week tools, which we're going to show some of the stuff today to talk about our advance rates and some things that we're sweating. We cover it all, right? If you're interested in playoff best ball, we're going to have lots of shows, lots of streams, lots of content. There's I wrote something, Bernie wrote something this week. We have our playoff odds. We have all sorts of different stuff up for playoff best ball. The beauty, again, of Spike Week is that for one price, one monthly price or one annual price, $200 for an entire year, calendar year, 365 days, you get access to absolutely everything, all of the tools, all of the rankings. We got rankings we're about to have MLB best balls out already. Can you believe that? A PGA best ball. We're still like holding out hope for the college football playoff best ball. I don't think it's actually going to happen, but we can, fingers crossed. We cover all that kind of stuff. You have our playoff best ball rankings and the tools, of course, the Draft Hacker, Draft IQ, everything. It all covers every single sport. You pay one fee. We're not doing sports betting subscriptions plus an NFL subscription plus a DFS subscription plus a tool right? No, one fee. You can choose per month. You can pay per year. Whatever you want to do, we cover all of it. But today we're going to talk about, right, what do we sweat in 2 days? It's Friday as of this recording. Last night we had a weird game. The weirdest 74-point game I think I've ever seen. Was it 44-30, right? The weirdest game with 75 points I think I've ever experienced in my entire life. That's great. M Camp says, checking in from the airport. Shout out to you. Safe travels. Getting my Spike Week viewing up for next year's Wrapped. Yes, everybody going through the Wrapped. Discord has Wrapped now. Apparently, I also learned this. Did anybody know this? Another thing, shout out to my wife. The woman who came up with the idea at Spotify for Wrapped was I believe unpaid, but I can't, I'm not 100% positive, but was an intern at the time, had this idea for the Wrapped concept at Spotify, like pitched it, right? Did the whole kit and caboodle, like ran it up the chain. They loved it. And they let her go, and she like gets no credit for anything that. And now everybody, thousands and thousands of people share their Spotify. Millions of people probably share their Spotify Wrapped every single year. And that poor woman, I guess she can go to her grave, knowing that she did something like that, like changed a lot of people get joy out of. She did something way more impactful than I'll ever do, but like God damn, man. It's a cold world out there. But yes, what up, Garage? Welcome. Make sure to get a PDF up on the website of the book. I could really use some lessons myself. Amen. I heard you, Versaire. The one takeaway, of course, as Jonathan says here in the chat, if you have a takeaway from last night's game, it is that I think the Jahmyr Gibbs bags feel pretty good. We'll get into the sweats and all that kind of stuff, right? I promise you. The one thing I feel hilariously good about this year, as if you know me, a lot more of like a zero running back, bro, right? A lot more of certainly early wide receivers, but I have huge Trey McBride bags, and I'm generally a later round running back. Just at my core, that's like if you have a core belief. However, the thing I'm proud about is adjusting a little bit this year. I'm well overweight Jonathan Taylor, and Jahmyr Gibbs is one of my higher owned early round players, not running backs, players. So we'll get into that. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs, the beauty of what Jahmyr Gibbs did last night in terms of thinking about our advance rates and thinking about our teams that are going to make the playoffs is got nowhere on the ground, right? As incredible of a receiver as he was in college, and as much as he has flashed over the course of his NFL career as a receiver, the receiving usage and receiving upside and stuff was like okay. It was always like, why doesn't Gibbs catch like 6 passes a game? Right? You're watching and you're like, why isn't this happening? And then recently, when it's specifically as Dan Campbell has taken over the place, I know he caught like 1 million passes in week 1 or whatever, but specifically Dan Campbell has just kind of been like, we got to win. Jahmyr Gibbs is our best player on offense. We got to get him the ball. We got to throw him the ball. He's become better as a receiver as well. I mean, they're literally using him occasionally as a receiver. If you saw the play that he broke Deron Bland's ankles, like poor Deron Bland. I think it's time to retire when someone does that to you on national television. The play that he did, he lined up out wide, motion into the slot, ran the out route, right? And then stops on a dime, and Deron Bland is face planting on the sideline. Gibbs is matchup proof. And what we see with most even like truly awesome running back, like fantasy running back picks, Jonathan Taylor as an example this year, who I mentioned, I'm rooting for. Most of my best teams are Jonathan Taylor and Jahmyr Gibbs, right? So I'm rooting for those guys. But Jonathan Taylor, even himself, is a little bit more matchup prone. He is never going to have like a 3-point game, right? Or whatever. But he does require his offense to be in a spot where he can have some rushing efficiency and they can score some points. He's a little bit beholden to Daniel Jones. He's a little bit beholden to like how good the rushing matchup is, right? Jahmyr Gibbs is truly the one. Even Christian McCaffrey, as awesome as he's been as a fantasy asset, when they run up against good, strong run defenses, you're like, oh boy, if he doesn't score a touchdown, this might get a little dicey because he's not a very good runner, right? Jahmyr Gibbs is like completely matchup proof. What the Thanksgiving game, he had 11 fantasy points or whatever, and it was like that's the flukiest, most insane thing I've ever seen in my entire life because he is I think as good as CMC has been, as good as JT has been, as good as Bijan has been. I think if you're going into the fantasy playoffs with one player, right, one early, of course, early round, but one, who do you want to start your team with? I think it's Jahmyr Gibbs because he's just infallible. He can go for 40 against anyone. And I don't know that these other guys have quite that in their bag. And maybe, maybe people disagree with that, but and maybe I'm being a prisoner of the moment as well, but he's going to score a bunch of touchdowns. He's going to catch passes. He can hit a home run at absolutely any moment. That's the thing that Christian McCaffrey can't do, as awesome as his fantasy role is. Like Gibbs can take a play to the house at any moment. And he was doing that last night, even in a tough rushing matchup. And so JT can do that a little bit too, but his receiving role, right, isn't quite as good as Gibbs is. So anyway, Just a quick Jahmyr Gibbs rant. Yeah, that's it. On DraftKings, like Pi says, he didn't hit the rushing bonus or the receiving bonus. And he goes for almost 40. That's crazy. That's crazy. Agreed. The Ferg OPI call was ridiculous. Like, awful. I get the argument that some would say it shouldn't have been anything. I think I'm both biased as a former defensive back and former defensive backs coach. Like, I despise the rules that how they are today in terms of it's impossible to guard anyone as a defensive player, specifically as, you know, a defensive back in pass coverage. But I did also bet the Cowboys last night, so I'm biased like on both sides of the thing. But that was defensive pass. That was defensive pass interference. And then to call it offensive pass interference and then to decline it and the Cowboys to kick a field goal was like, I couldn't believe what I was watching. Like, just so many everyone made a mistake. Like, all parties involved made a mistake. I couldn't believe they declined it. I couldn't believe they called OPI and not DPI. I couldn't believe that the Cowboys kicked a fucking field goal. And you know, and then you saw what happened. Detroit gets a big return to midfield and then scores in like 4 plays. Like, chaos, man. Absolutely chaos. If you have some guys that you are interested in thinking about sweating, guys you're hoping to get through on into the playoffs, by all means, bring them on, drop them in the chat and go for it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk through a little bit of BBM, a little bit of the DK Millie, and then I'll pull up. I have a sweat in. So I drafted 11 of the DraftKings $555. They call it the Monster Millionaire, right? I drafted 11 of those, and 2 are advancing and 2 have a chance. 2 I'm sweating. So we'll go through those as well. People like the higher stake stuff, and I'm sweating those harder than I'm sweating a random BBM team. But we'll walk through kind of some stuff that I'm sweating. And as I mentioned, one of my favorite features about our Draft IQ tool is you can this whole like sweating concept, right? Like, how do you sweat your teams in best ball? Like, how do you even do it? Well, we gave you the ability to do so from within Draft IQ that you see here. Now you can adjust this point total, right? It says sweat teams within number of points. Of course, you can just go to like something like the lineups page in Draft IQ. You can see, right? So I have a 15% advance rate. I have 32% of my teams within 100 points. But, you know, I changed this. Let's, you know, we only have 1 week, 100 points. I'm probably not going to come back from 100 points, right? We do 25 and all of a sudden, okay, only 2% more teams are within, right? So I have 2% of my teams. So there's only a handful of those teams. But then I say, well, show me those teams, right? We click show me the teams to sweat. I can really quickly see, all right, these are the teams and you can play around with this, right? I can do 30. Does it move up if I do 30? Actually, let's go show all teams. Doesn't move up if I do 30, right? If I do 40, does it move up if I do 40? It moves up if I do 40. So let's do 40 just for fun. Just because I might have a couple more teams to talk about. But then again, how do I sweat my teams? I can do it right here. I look at just the teams to sweat, of course, because it's also going to give you the ones that are advancing. It's easy to say, well, that one's advancing. Let's ignore that one. But you're also sweating that team, right? But let's just look at a couple teams that are not advancing, but are within a certain amount of points, specifically in Best Ball Mania. First one, and this is another thing that becomes a little bit interesting is, so this one is and this scoring is up, right? It updates. It's updated for after the Thursday night football game. Sorry, let me zoom in a little bit. So, you know, hilariously, Dak is on a bunch of these teams, which is like kind of not great. I would love to get Dak through, of course, but if I got to make up ground and I already have Dak's score counting at the quarterback position, right? That's a little bit dicey. Bijan, Charbonnet, Dylan Sampson, not great, right? Common guy, okay, cool. But Tyreek Hill, womp womp. George Pickens, my God, George. I mean, I assume everyone saw the performance, of course, by George Pickens last night, which was dreadful. Not just the box score. He had a couple of shots down the field for sure. He had the OPI that ended up, or the DPI that there was also hands to the face. Yeah, that was Ferg, right? Pickens had the DPI that like maybe could have been a touchdown. It was the deep shot from Dak Prescott, but Ferg had illegal hands to the face on the same play. That was a big turning point of the game. George Pickens committed OPI, running the pick play and doing a shitty job of avoiding the defender. He just played terrible, and then he's out here whining on social media about everyone's coming after him when, like, dude, we have the tape. We watched you run these half-ass routes. We watched you not particularly try. We watched you play bad. You played bad. Doesn't take away from how awesome George Pickens has been this year, and I certainly would expect a bounce back. But it's just so it's just so frustrating when these diva. Well, yeah, exactly. As Travis says, that was Steelers George Pickens. That was not the George Pickens that we have come to know and love this year as like one of the top 5 for sure, top 5 pick in best ball in fantasy, but in best ball this year, George Pickens, right? That was not him. That was I guess I'll take him in the 7th round because he's going to have some good games. Steelers, George Pickens, which like was fine, but the whole there was a nice intriguing conversation after Pickens had just went nuts a couple weeks ago of like in our Discord, which of course there's a link to in the description. It comes free if you are a premium member of Spike Week. Is George Pickens better than CeeDee Lamb? And I think I do genuinely think that it's not to overreact to the one game, just like we shouldn't overreact to when Pickens has a huge game. But that kind of performance is why he isn't better than those top guys. He's awesome, but you just can't do that, right? Last year, CeeDee Lamb had no help. CeeDee Lamb had no Dak Prescott. CeeDee Lamb had no other wide receivers, and he had a bum shoulder. He was getting hurt like every game, and he was out there cooking, right? Go look at the game logs. CeeDee Lamb was incredible even last year in an absolutely disastrous situation. Jamar Chase does it with Joe Flacco or with Jake Browning, right? Or with whoever. Malik Neighbors is out here doing it with Russ and Jackson Dart and Drew Lock. And like, you just can't do that if you're truly in that level, right? Like he's one tier down from those other wide receivers. He's awesome, but you just can't pretend to be the man. And then when the team needs you to be the man in a must-win game for your team to make the playoffs, show, like you just can't do it. Let's see some comments. Pickens has the worst ball security in the league. I will not argue that. He does some weird stuff. And then, they're like applauding him for, we appreciate the effort to try to get into the end zone. Like I would appreciate if you didn't fumble at the 2-yard line because you're being stupid. Yeah. Okay. Let's review some more teams. So these are my BBMs, right? So we have 15 teams that I would classify as sweating from within 40, right? We set our points sweating to within 40. The nice thing is we're advancing a little bit over, right? We're advancing 8 out of those 15. I don't think this first team we looked at that's not advancing is in very good shape. Tyreek Hill, of course, already using Pickens, already using Dak. Probably in some trouble. I mean, and nothing is technically using Ferg already as well. Probably pretty cooked. Then we have a team that's 39 points out. And like immediately, like we could sit here and cope about this team and say, well, what if Darnold has a big game? But Michael Penix is out for the season. It's just not, you're just not winning BBM with a solo Sam Darnold. Plus Travion and Rico Dowdle are like the 2 most impactful running backs on this team. And it's down by 39. It ain't happening, right? RIP to this team. This one's a little bit more interesting. Obviously, Travion on there as well, which sucks because they are on bye. Purdy also on bye, but it does have Matthew Stafford. And so I'm hoping naturally that this has some Rams wide receivers on it because it's a pretty good spot for the Rams wide receivers. Najee Harris, not so great. We got to talk about Trey Benson for 2 seconds just because we've been waiting, hoping, dreaming for him to come back. Of course, James Conner is out for the season. The Cardinals are like a functional offense with Jacoby Brissett in there. And then naturally, he plays the Bengals in week 17. One of the dreamiest matchups you can possibly get for a running back, right, is a running back against the Bengals. I think the Giants have surpassed that a little bit. But so call it bottom 2, bottom 3, bottom whatever. It's one of the best spots for a running back. But it appears Trey Benson had a little bit of a setback during his once they activated him. They activated his practice window. He has just a few more days. I think I'm gonna miss. I think it's December 10th, 9th, 10th, something like that. Beginning of next week is when Trey Benson has to be activated to the 53-man roster, or he's out for the season. I believe the quote today from Jonathan Gannon, Cardinals head coach, was he's getting closer, but he's just not there yet, which is not ideal because he's been out for a long time. But I think he came back and had a little bit of a setback. I don't think it's over for Trey Benson in terms of like, I don't know, you could get to week 17 and maybe he is someone you do want to have, right? However, the dream of like James Conner is out, we're going to get this like late season, Trey Benson comes back and he's like no one being logical was saying that Trey Benson is going to come in and become the new Jonathan Taylor or whatever. Like that of course not. He's still going to cede some work to DeMercado or Bam Knight or whatever. But like they want to see what they have in Trey Benson too. This is year 2 and they don't know shit about this guy. They got to decide in 2 years, what to do with this guy. They also need some tape. They need some he needs reps. But I just don't see how it's feasible for him to come back and like be like a true difference maker in fantasy. Right? I think he could be like maybe this dude helps me, in a pinch in week 16 or something. He hits my RB2 spot, right? I have Gibbs and I have a hero running back Gibbs team. Gibbs fills my RB1 spot, and I have a bunch of good wide receivers. I have a good tight end, right? How do I fill my RB2 spot? Like he could potentially fill that in, and then of course in week 17 against the Bengals, like could he have a good game? Sure. The idea, the dream of him coming back and being like this like week 17 hammer, I think unfortunately is out the window. It stinks. Trust me, I got Benson. I could use him in a lot of spots. You're looking at this team that could probably use him. He's out this week in week 14. And my guess based on Gannon was asked about, are you going to activate him? Are you going to activate Trey Benson? And he basically said like, we can activate him and still not have him on the active roster for game days, which was like, okay, so I don't know that they're going to shut him down, but that doesn't make me feel very optimistic about when he's going to come back. So I think Trey Benson was a potentially like huge like playoff weapon, if you will. That just, it didn't work. Was Trey Benson a bad pick? Nope. Sometimes it just, right? He was not Rashee Rice, but like last year, right? If you drafted a shitload of 7th round Rashee Rice last year, were you wrong or did you just run bad? I think it's pretty clear that you really just ran bad. And Trey Benson this year got the perfect run out. It just didn't work. You could argue, right, with the way the Trey Benson season has gone, that James Conner also ran bad, right, by him being out for the season. But same idea, right? The Cardinals backfield thing, I think, was a good investment, no matter how you really slice it. And it just didn't work out. And them's the breaks, right? But I think it's not out of the realm of possibility. And there's a lot of those guys, right? The Trey Bensons of the world where like it's not out of the realm of possibility that he is he provides something to us from a best ball perspective. But the idea of like, holy shit, if I can get to the final and I have Trey Benson, this is he's going to win me Best Ball Mania. I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately. 100%. This is the exact Min Cash Merchant says Hampton feels similar to Benson, but because Vidal is good and not a setback. I wholeheartedly agree. I think that's exactly the other player that I was going to talk about in that vein, where if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago on both of these players, if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago, how do you feel about sneaking through Amari and Hampton and or Trey Benson into the best ball playoffs, I would have said, please, I'll do anything. Like, what? So where do I sign? Like, what do I got to do? Right? I want those guys on teams like home run. And I just think things have changed. Kamani Vidal is a good enough back that the Chargers, he has earned the Chargers' trust. I think Amari and Hampton, we had a fun conversation the other day. I see you in the chat, Versaire. Versaire and I had a fun back and forth of like, I don't even think we really ultimately disagree, but just like discussing this backfield where I think Hampton is almost assuredly like, is there a chance that Vidal is just like better than Hampton? Technically there's a chance, but I think all signs point towards the most likely scenario is that Hampton's a lot more talented than Kamani Vidal is. And they spent a first round pick on him. So they're clearly invested in him, much more invested than they are in Kamani Vidal. However, Hampton is just getting back, most likely this week. There's going to be a ramp up period, right? Bucky Irving got a ramp up period. Everybody gets a ramp up period. You don't just show back up and play 90% of the snaps. Like Christian McCaffrey doesn't show back up and play 90% of the snaps. So there's going to be the ramp up. And then you have another guy that whether or not he's worse is not super relevant. They trust him, right? Samaje Perine is worse than Chase Brown, but they trust Samaje Perine. I'm not sure they should, but they trust Samaje Perine, right? That's how these backfields work. RJ Harvey is much better than Jaleel McLaughlin and Tyler Bidet. But the Broncos trust those guys to fill in and play a certain role. So it just keeps RJ Harvey like in check enough, right? To where you still want him. We might look at some teams with him today, but it prevents him from becoming like, holy shit, if you don't have him, it's over type situation. And that's, I feel even stronger about those two guys. And that's why I feel the same about Benson as I feel about Hampton. I'm a little more excited for Hampton, I think, just because the health seems to be less of a concern. The concern for Benson is very health related, right? Like, I mean, he's not even practicing. He came back to practicing and then he hasn't practiced for a week or week and a half or whatever. So that's terrifying. But is Amari and Hampton going to be a difference maker in our best ball playoff run? Probably not. Can he play an impact? Sure, of course. But is he going to be a difference maker? I think that's another pipe dream. That ship has probably sailed. Most people here made zero Vidal clicks this summer, right? Yeah. Benny asks, yes. Kamani Vidal was the hilarious thing about Kamani Vidal is, of course, he was like a little bit of a sexy, pick last year because the only backs in the Chargers backfield were J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And obviously J.K. Dobbins kind of ran with that backfield and Gus was whatever. This year, though, so Kamani Vidal did nothing. This year, though, Hampton is the starter, right? And they have Najee. So that's the split between those two guys. They both go down. Do you know who the actual next running back up was? Because it wasn't Kamani Vidal. The next running back up for the Chargers was Hassan Haskins. But he's so bad. Vidal outplayed Haskins, and they were like, okay, enough of this dude. Vidal took over the backfield, and now the backup is Jarrett Patterson. Weird run out for the Chargers this year. Yep. Dobbins was off an Achilles. So yeah, I mean, it was understandable. The Vidal thing was a little wishcasty, but it was understandable. And now the Vidal people are saying never wrong, just early. Insane run out. That's what Light of Truth says. Crazy run out. I mean, You tell me that this is both the fun and the tilting nature of this game is like, someone explain to me how you can. So they drafted Amari, right? They had Dobbins and Gus last year, and they had this Vidal fella, and having Vidal on the roster and Haskins actually on the roster last year, they said, let's draft a running back in the first fucking round of the NFL draft. That's what they did. So I think that means they didn't really care for those other guys, and they thought Hampton was quite good. Even yet, they no, they're not paying Najee a bunch of money, but they were like, we should get another guy. We should get another guy. They were like, these other guys are so untrustworthy. Vidal, Haskins, right? Whatever. These guys are so untrustworthy. We need to spend a first round pick on a running back and sign Najee. They did that. Najee blows his fucking face off in a fireworks accident. That's insane enough, right? That's absolutely insane. And then comes back, right? We don't know if he has two eyes. We're playing this whole does he or doesn't he have because he's wearing visors and all this. And then he comes back and we're like, oh no, and he's fine. He has two eyes. He comes back and he blows out the knee. I shouldn't be laughing at that, but like, and then the rookie gets hurt. The rookie who then Hampton plays like 90% of snaps in his last game. Boop, see ya. Now he's hurt. Like, and then again, Hassan Haskins is actually the next man up, and the fourth man up in the Chargers backfield is the guy. It's like, I would love to tell you, like, here's how, who's next year's Kamani Vidal. I would love to tell you, like, let's dig into this thing. Sometimes the story is too crazy. You couldn't come up with something to learn from that. Like, what's the lesson? To draft, I'm trying to think of another RB4. You draft Evan Hull, right? Are you going to draft Evan Hull next year? Like I liked Evan Hull once upon a time as a prospect. I thought Evan Hull was going to win last year, going to win the backup job to the Indianapolis Colts. I was wrong, just like people were wrong about Kamani Vidal. And then he ended up as basically the RB4 on a team this year. Does that mean I should draft him? Like, no, that would be very bad. That would be a terrible process. It's like, things happen. DJ Dallas. Yeah. So Chris Brooks is an interesting name, Benny says, because he was operating as the RB2 during camp. And I have some, there's probably we might stumble on a Chris Brooks team here on this screen, but it's fair. Yeah. Devin Singletary has had that run out in 2 consecutive years, says Min Cash Merchant. It's crazy. Devin Singletary is the new cockroach. He just pops up out of everywhere, out of nowhere every year because some insane thing happens. You can't kill him. And then you're like, what the hell? Devin Singletary just scored 20 fantasy points in back-to-back weeks. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right, let's look at a couple more teams so we can get through some of these. We can talk about some of the players that you guys are interested in. We can look at some DraftKings teams as well. Super quickly, Warehouse says, I was drafting Wilson. You had me scared in late August when you thought Brooks was the RB2. I mean, I have some, let's look at that. I wonder if Emmanuel Wilson's on any of these. I have Emmanuel Wilson teams. I have advancing Emmanuel Wilson teams, I think. Yeah. So look, out of my 15 BBMs that I'm sweating, so this isn't all my BBMs. Out of my 15 BBMs that are within 40 points, right? Plus or minus. 2 of them have Emmanuel Wilson. Oh God, he's on that. He's on that FedEx Darnold team, so he's cooked. But he's on this Jordan Love, another one. What's up with the fucking Sam Darnold? Sam Darnold, Travion, Charbonnet, Sampson, Bill, RIP Bill, Keaton, Monungai, Emmanuel Wilson. That's not bad. Jamar Chase, Devontae, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Rashid Shaheed, Luther Burden. Okay. Solo, Trey McBride. Right? Like, I would like to get this team through. The running backs need some good luck. And of course, Travion's out this week, but I don't know, man. That seems pretty fun. It's only up by 2 points. It's only up by 2 points. But again, I drafted Emmanuel Wilson, but then in the preseason and training camp, Brooks was operating as the RB2. And so I don't regret that. I don't regret taking Emmanuel Wilson because I thought he was the backup earlier in the summer. But I also don't regret having non-zero Chris Brooks and taking him when the evidence showed us that he was the RB2. Sometimes that's wrong, right? But also sometimes that's how you get Kyle Monangai. So like you guys know, during the summer I do a pod with Pat Crane of Legendary Upside and Ship Chasing and everything every week. And we've like coined the term, right? The tax, like you have to pay a tax sometimes. And to get to pile on to Kyle Monangai, who is like one of the best late round picks you could have this year, right? In order to have a bunch of Kyle Monangai shares, you have to be willing to trust that the coach is not lying sometimes. And they were not, right? The Bears were not lying about Kyle Monangai. They were telling the truth. He's the backup. Roshan, we don't stop talking about Roshan. We don't care about Roshan. Our backfield is DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. That's what they told us. The Packers told us that Chris Brooks was the backup too. And they were lying. they were lying. But, you know, if I got to pay that tax to get Kyle Monangai, I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty cool with that. But yeah, Marshawn Lloyd was also his practice window was also opened up. Copy paste says Solo McBride feels good. Yeah, I agree. They have a couple tough matchups in the playoffs, but I'm not sure that anything matters for Trey McBride. I feel pretty good about if we can get this team through, right? I don't know that this team will get through. Love, Darnold. It's a decent spot for Jordan Love, and I don't know what the obviously in this view, I don't know what the team that's 3 points behind me has. Theoretically, right? It's nice that this team doesn't have anybody that played on Thursday night, so we're just going to start scoring. It's really nice. Luther Burden. I don't know if everyone saw Rome Odunze is out this week, so we're hoping for Burden smash. I think Jaden Reed is fun to have on advancing teams. I don't think he's going to come back this week. He's technically questionable, I believe. I don't think he's going to come back this week, but if we can get him back right away to start the fantasy playoffs, no Tucker Kraft, that would be fun. I'm not sure that Jordan Addison is very fun to advance with a blind man throwing him the football, but a bunch of live bodies, right? There's no Torrey Horton's hurt. I was going to say there's nobody hurt on this team. Sampson is technically hurt, I guess, but no one is injured on this team other than Torrey Horton, and it hilariously somehow has Rashid Shaheed that kind of like steps into the Torrey Horton thing. So these are the kind of teams I'm looking for, right? Get through somehow. Get through this thing that is like, does it have, I mean, Jamar Chase is like kind of a smash and Trey McBride is kind of a smash, but it doesn't have anything that's like, it's a bunch of guys you're like, yeah, they could have big games, but it's not like, oh yeah, you have a Gibbs, JT, whatever, JSN team. Like, no shit, you advanced. All of those teams advanced. I like looking through the teams that don't necessarily have that exact combination of players. Yeah, Benny says, wish I could have those Roshan June, July clicks back. Yeah, dude, we talked about this a little bit earlier today too. Different, not Roshan, but I have a million clicks. Just like everyone else, I make a million mistakes every summer, right? I'm sure. Let's look at this team. I mean, fuck, Geno Smith is on this team. I'm overweight Geno Smith. Like, good job, dummy. You were excited about this Raiders offense, and they're the worst goddamn offense in the entire NFL. I have infinite Will Shipley and infinite Keaton Mitchell, right? I mean, Tyreek's on this team. Why did I ever click Tyreek Hill? Idiot, right? Stupid. There's guys on littered across teams, right? I mean, this team right here is literally advancing with JJ McCarthy. I make as many mistakes as everyone else does, but it's a blessing in disguise that sometimes you don't land on certain landmines, right? And Roshan was one of those that we just got lucky to avoid here. Let's see. Center Strong. How do you pronounce Center Strong? Gino was free at least. I have a bunch too. Yeah, I'm poking fun. He's Gino and the Raiders or something. I want to like think more about. I don't have a definitive answer like in this moment, but I want to think more about over the summer, or over the winter, I guess I should say, winter, early spring. Because on one hand, they're the exact kind of thing you're like kind of looking for. Superstar, second year tight end, like one of the best receiving tight ends, one of the best receiving tight end prospects ever, one of the best receiving tight ends already in the NFL year 2. Ashton Genty, super talented, right? Superstar, rookie running back. Enough around them, plus some like scratch off lottery tickets from the offensive perspective. Jack Bash, Dante Thornton, right? Like Trey Tucker was like whatever, but like, I don't know, he's an NFL wide receiver. Jacoby Myers is like boring for fantasy, but like a competent NFL wide receiver. And then a new regime, right? Pete Carroll plus Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly had been a good play caller, offensive mind at multiple levels of football. Bad head coach, but a fine play caller and offensive mind. And then you insert this like just such a stable veteran, accurate, not going to make big mistakes, can really be an awesome like point guard facilitating to these like intriguing weapons. They're probably not going to be like an awesome real life team, right? We knew that part. But like so like they're going to have to throw. So like that, all of that was like, I don't know, this seems really good for Geno. This makes like Geno seem like a really good pick. And it was just, this has been such a disaster that and Geno's getting a lot of blame, and he's not blameless, but the situation around him has eroded so just quickly and in such a dramatic fashion that I don't know what he's supposed to do. They have the worst offensive line in football by like a country mile. Go look at like PFF grades aren't everything, but really you could look at just about any metric. And the Raiders offensive line is so much worse. The gap from them to second is as big as the gap from second to like, I'm going to screw this up, like 7th or something like that. Like it's crazy how bad they are. So maybe I should have been more into, I do study the offensive line stuff. I didn't think it would be this big of a problem, but maybe I should have. Something to think about in the offseason. Okay, let's look at a couple more teams. I see you guys on some guys. I'll search out some of those names that you guys are mentioning and see if we got anything fun. But so here's a DAC team within 28. Again, we talked about this one already, right? Yeah, Tyreek team. Okay. There's that terrible Michael Penix team. Here's the Stafford. Oh, yeah. Stafford, Puka, and Devontae. So it has Javonte. How far are we out? Okay. We're out 10, but Stafford, Puka, Devontae, Mason, have Javonte locked in at a running back. They're fucking Trey Benson and Najee. Whoops. Jarquez. So really needs Jordan Mason this week. But if the Rams explode, got Gmo on there already, right? Niners are obviously on bye. Franklin, Vele. Okay, I mean, it's not over. Again, down by 10 with some basically Rams juice. Stafford double would be fun. I see you, Versaire. We'll get to it. I just want to scroll through a couple of these because you guys are watching me go through this in real time, and I have not done this yet. So I'm learning this on the fly. Here's a fun one. Jaden Daniels. Obviously, Bryce Young on bye. So, wow. That's nice. A nice run out. Travion on bye. We got JT, Javonte. Okay. And there's Puka, McLaurin. Oh, fucking Travis Hunter. God damn it. Every time you scroll one of these teams, you're like, ooh, Jaden Daniels is back. JT, Javonte, Puka. Oh, Terry's back. And you have Daniel stacked with him. And you're like, fuck. To pick 55, Travis Hunter. And yeah, Keon Coleman, awful. De'Ami Brown, awful. Sam Laporta, out for the year, awful. Like, it's like you just start peeling down the layers of the onion. And by the time you get to layer 6, you're like, God damn it. This was fun for a second. Let's see. A Hurts team looks all right, but probably a bit cooked at running back. And I was in my Jermaine Burton phase during that one. So yeah, not ideal. Dobbins team, Braylon Allen, Tank Bigsby. How the fuck is this team even close? Hurts, Mahomes, Drake London out this week. So yeah, that team is cooked. Okay, let's look at this. I think this is the last one. Yeah. Last BBM within striking distance. See Geno Darnold within 15. That's wild. Okay, this is kind of interesting. It's not going to win BBM because the quarterbacks are Geno and Darnold. However, Breece Hall, Ken Walker, Travion Henderson, Javonte Williams, Bashal Tootin, and Dylan Sampson for it's not a zero running back. This is a sandwich running back room, right? We took some Breece, Ken Walker, Travion at pick 42, 55, and 66. That's a pretty damn good running back room. Let's see. Puka, JSN, and then again, now we get to the wah. Matthew Golden, Keon Coleman, Trey Harris, Xavier Legette, De'Ami Brown, and MVS. Sick MVS click, bro. When did I draft this team? Let's see. June 10th. So I don't know what was going on June 10th, but we were in MVS mode on that one. But the rest of the team is not bad. It's just a little light at Legette had a couple of teams. MVS, however, has not had a couple of teams. All right, let's move over to DraftKings because I think everyone can kind of see their BBM teams, of course. What's your account at? I'm blaming Rob. On June 10th, Rob and I must have drafted that team on a Monday night, and he convinced me to take MVS. Yeah, we didn't know about Torrey Horton. I mean, we knew about Torrey Horton. I was still excited about Torrey, but I wasn't. I don't know. Don't listen to these excuses. These are excuses. There's no reason to have drafted MVS. I don't know. I got nothing. Terrible. Just terrible. Okay. So sitting at 15% in the DraftKings Millie, 15% in BBM. Let's look at our teams to sweat. 13 teams plus or minus 40 points. The interesting thing, which is not ideal, but will make for a fun sweat, is out of those 13 that are within 40, I'm actually only advancing 31% of them. So look, the highest scoring one is not even advancing. The highest scoring two are not even advancing there in third. This one's down by 1.8 and 4.8. Gibbs on this first one, so that's nice. But also, of course, if second place hasn't used any points or something like that, then I got some work to do. But Hurts Baker looks good. Sharp, Sampson, fucking Benson, man. Sean Tucker. Hey, see, we talked about Chris Brooks. There's Chris Brooks showing up on one of these teams. The Hurts double. Debo, Olave, Bateman, Tesla. Okay. Legette, Franklin, Horton, Kittle, Fannin. Nice. Right? So go Eagles. Go Eagles. And a lot of Darnold, man. I did not draft that much Sam Darnold. Why is he on? How much? Hold on. How much Darnold do I even have? Okay, 8%. Okay, I'm at 8%. I'm at 8% Sam Darnold. But he's showing up on a lot, just a exorbitant amount of teams for someone I drafted 8% of. It's like as Benny says, he was good for he had two. If I recall, I'm gonna screw this up. He had like a 26-point game and a 27-point game, and like a bunch of sub 10-point games. So like he's been healthy, and then had like two good games, which are like obviously really helpful at the quarterback position from a late pick. That's what's so interesting. Where like I don't disagree, Warehouse. Like Darnold was a great pick at 175, but like he hasn't. Go look at his fantasy points. Go look at his games. It's not very good. He's just exactly. JSN probably helped, right? If you paired him with JSN, let's see, we can search it out. Let's do all teams just for this search, right? So I'm not just looking at Darnold. So we'll punch in Darnold. Another beautiful thing you can do in Draft IQ is you can search you can type in 20 goddamn players. You can search for all 20 if you want. I don't think anyone wants to do that, but you can. So let's look at Darnold plus JSN teams. I literally only have 2 of them, and neither of them are close. Whoops. I think my Darnold exposure was something bad happened in this draft. He was a backstop, right? I'd much preferred Geno as an example, and so right, I have 13 Darnold teams, 38% advance rate. That's crazy. Or no, that's 13 JSN teams and 38% advance rate on JSN teams. Let's look at JSN teams to sweat, actually, just for fun. None within plus or minus 40. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy how that works? You can have 13 total JSN teams. None of them have any real sweat either way, right? They're not advancing and could get poached, or vice versa. Exactly. Darnold had 2 good games, which is great. Been a lot of useless games. Like a lot. Go look. We're shitting on let's look at it. Sorry, I lost my mic. Had to pause. I was so excited to talk about Geno Smith and Sam Darnold that I knocked out the cord on my mic. Okay, let's look at quarterback. Right, here's Sam Darnold, 14.8 points per game. Here's the scores. Right, so this is not DraftKings. There's no bonuses. I don't even know if he threw for 300 yards. But anyway, it's not important. 5. Well, I'll just round up. 5, 18, 17, 16, 29. Bang. 20, 10, 28, 6, 8, 18, 3. So, like, it's not great. But there's two big games and 1 good. Let's call it that. Geno, 13 points per game. So a 2 point per game difference. 19, 6, 26, 13, 8, 10, 3, 27, 5, 14, 14, 13. Functionally, from a best ball perspective, Geno and Darnold were like not that different. But we view Darnold as like, oh, he was a good pick and Geno was trash. Right? And I think Darnold was a better pick, of course. He averaged more points per game. He added more points to your team, blah, blah, blah. But it's at least interesting to think about the psychology of that part of it, where like we're like, oh my God, Geno, what a disaster. I just ranted about Geno being a disaster. And we're like, oh, Darnold, he's been a good pick. And it's like, I don't know. They were like the same, close enough to the same price. And you've gotten close enough to the same production. We're like 2 more like useful games out of Sam Darnold, but they both had 2 like 27 pointers. They both had an extra like 20 pointer. Right? Geno did it in week 1. Darnold did it in like week 11 or something like that. And the rest was like 3 to 14. So interesting. All right. 13 teams, plus or minus 40 points here. Also, if you want to, I know I just talked about it, Dilu. I just described Darnold as a solid pick at ADP. I was comparing him to Geno, who we just said was a bad pick. Yeah, if you took him with Allen, those good games. Yeah, and I don't know the blending. I didn't go through right the like layering of how much did he help Allen, but I can't tell you. So here's an Allen, another beauty of this tool that I really do love. Here's a Josh Allen, Sam Darnold 2 quarterback room. I used so that their points did work together really well. The Darnold games happened to come right. So Darnold averaged less than 15 points per game, and Josh Allen has been good. And yet the Darnold games happen to come at really good times in Allen's, in the Allen like mediocre games. The better Darnold games came at that time. He only added 39 points, but but with these two quarterbacks, if you used Allen and Darnold together, you used 204 Allen points and 129 Darnold points. But if you pair him with different guys, it's not that right. There's going to be a difference because the timing of those games. This is another fascinating part about best ball is certain guys are better picks paired with certain other players. Right? Darnold actually really helped a Josh Allen team, but like there's going to be other quarterbacks that he didn't help quite as much. So interesting. Yeah, he keeps showing up in these bubble teams. Bizarre. Shout out to Strunk. We're gonna call you Strunk. Says I had 49% on Darnold and 33% on JSN. Imagine if you flipped those, you'd be victory lapping around your neighborhood like Frank the Tank with 49% of that. Oh, I see. You're a 3 quarterback guy. I get it. Not a lot of 3 quarterbacks for me. Let's see. Yeah, dude, I feel that Warehouse says my memory of Darnold is better than the actual numbers. I had the same epiphany the other day. The only reason I pulled that up and we ended up, well, partially because we ended up talking about, but then I knew it was there because I'm not, you have to forgive me if I don't know every single fantasy point output from Sam Darnold over the course of the entire season, especially like comparing him to Geno Smith. I went back through and I did exactly what we just did. And I was like, what the hell? Like, it felt like Sam Darnold's been better than this, but it really wasn't that good. So I had the exact same like response to it where I was like, I think my emotion about Sam Darnold, because I feel like he's played right. He's had a couple rough games recently, but he's played pretty well. And the Seahawks are a really fun story. So like and I remember like the 4 touchdown games, like was mentioned. And so I feel like I like hyped him up. I was a Darnold hype man in my brain, and hyping up Sam Darnold to yourself. What a life, but it hasn't been quite as good. So I'm not like super excited, but he's a live body at quarterback with JSN and a good offensive coordinator, Shaheed, etc. So can't be too upset about him. Here's a fun one that is advancing. That's within our sweat bucket. Lamar Burrow would be fun to get through. And you can see why it's advancing with Lamar and Burrow. Is Gibbs, JT, Algier on here, Justice Hill, JMO, Devontae, Diggs, Jawan, Godwin, Bateman, Dante Thornton, Torrey Horton, Troy Franklin, Mitchell Tinsley. Oh boy. Come step up with your Mitchell Tinsley bags, please. For every MVS, there's a Mitchell Tinsley, is what we have learned on this here stream. And what was the date on this? Yeah, this was late. This was late summer when Andrews, Gesicki, and Fannin. I'm cool with that. This was, if you remember, Joe Burrow was out there on, I think, Monday Night Football, like basically trying to tell the front office to keep Mitchell Tinsley on the team. Now, T's about to be back, and Mitchell Tinsley is nothing. But certainly Mitchell Tinsley was a better pick than MVS. So that's funny. You can see when I really get into my Galaxy brain stuff here, especially on DraftKings with 20 rounds. You got to be one of the only Tinsley teams. Let's look and see if any of another beautiful feature of Draft IQ is I can look at my opponent. Let's go to the draft board is what I always like to do. But when you upload your teams, right, to Draft IQ, of course it shows you your teams, but it also tracks your opponent's team, so you can analyze those as well. And so I can go look and see how many times did my opponents take Mitchell Tinsley. 0. My opponents did not take Mitchell Tinsley. Now, I'm not trying to brag about this. Mitchell Tinsley's not going to matter. He's not going to matter. But in relation to the fact that I have like MVS and Jermaine Burton and like a lot of bad picks and like 40% De'Ami Brown, just let me have this one. You know what I mean? Jason says, Dante Thornton, remember him? I remember clicking that button a lot more than whoever was talking about Roshan. Like, I regret all those Roshan clicks. That's how I feel about Dante Thornton. Yikes. Tough scene. Are the Colts cooked now with the Daniel Jones injury? They were unstoppable for half the season and now look mediocre. Not sure how useful they will be in the playoffs. A little bit of tougher matchups, right, for the Colts. They're definitely not cooked. It's a negative for sure, and their schedule's not awesome down the stretch. It's certainly concerning, right? So let's look at the Colts schedule real quick. So this is why I sometimes I over-index on this, but I'm such a stickler during the season in terms of like analyzing the results, thinking about expectations and projecting guys forward. I'm really a bit anal about the who you've played, because putting up big games on the Titans and the Raiders and the Cardinals and the Dolphins and all that kind of stuff is like, that's cute. It's good. It's always good to put up big games on teams you're supposed to put up big games on. Did you see what the Ravens just did? They didn't do that. That doesn't inspire confidence, right? They played the Bengals and they didn't do shit. However, it's good not to assume that Daniel Jones and Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce and, of course, Jonathan Taylor and Tyler Warren are just going to nuke all season when they run into, as we've seen here, Kansas City and Houston. And then you have this Daniel Jones issue, right? When you go play good defenses like Kansas City is and like Houston is, you see what happens. This isn't the greatest show on turf. They're still a good offense, but they're a little bit matchup prone. Now, they get Jacksonville this week, which is fine. And they get Jacksonville in the finals, which is fine. It's not like incredible, but they can certainly put up big games in those weeks. And in week 16, the 49ers defense sucks. So that's a good spot, specifically for Jonathan Taylor. However, can you get Jonathan Taylor out of the week 15 Seahawks matchup? That's who they play in week 15, right? Sorry, I'm covering up the week 17 schedule. In week 15, they play the Seahawks. The Seahawks are the best run defense in the NFL. The Seahawks and the Browns are the best run defenses in the NFL. And you got to go to Seattle with a injured Daniel Jones. So, like, he's assuming, right, health and assuming all this other stuff. JT is going to cook the Niners in week 16, almost assuredly. But in week 15, yeah, he better catch some passes and run hot on touchdowns, because like nobody runs efficiently on the Seahawks. And we've seen that, look, JT has 85 rushing yards last week against a good Texans defense and 58 against the Chiefs. Now, he destroyed the Falcons, of course, but then, right, look at the Steelers. Steelers, generally competent defense, 45 rushing yards. There's time. The Rams, good defense, 76 rushing yards. In those matchups, the Colts are just going to struggle a little bit more. So something to think about with your JT teams and all that kind of fun stuff. Okay. I didn't end up going through most of these. Here's one of my very few Christian McCaffrey teams. That's a sweat. That's one of our Darnold teams that we talked about. Dowdle. I don't know. I'm only down by 5. But CMC is on bye. Tyrone Tracy is on bye. Rico Dowdle is on bye. And it has Damian Pierce and Kendre Miller, and Drake London is out, and Mike Evans is out, and Travis Hunter. Jesus Christ. This team must have been advancing by a lot and just really plummeted. Holy shit. And I'm not sure Dalton Kincaid is going to play. And Jalen Royals is inactive, and Torrey Horton is hurt. De'Ami Brown, not a thing anymore. RIP to this team. Lost one of my only CMC teams. To the injury bug. All right, let's quickly scroll, and then I'm just going to quickly pull up my 5-5-5 teams, and then we can get on out of here and get everybody to their Friday nights. Okay, here's our CMC team. Chase Brown, okay. Jaden Blue. What the fuck? Maybe C-Rod can fill in. Yeah, Evans could be back. It's true. Not in love with this team over here, though. DJ Moore, Luther. Okay. We are 30 points back. No CMC this week. Chase Brown, and then so it's probably Chase Brown and C-Rod. Obviously, Keaton could technically fill, but Chase Brown and C-Rod at running back. It does have Goff already, who was not that great. So the Caleb double stack, but no, it's with the guys who are healthy. So that could be fun. I had the JMO score already. Zay, Olave, fucking Keon. Mooney, okay. There's the aforementioned Dante Thornton. Troy Franklin, Kittle on bye, Fannin. Okay, we got some life. We're sweating. All right, let's move over to the meat and potatoes. I guess really just the meat. Not the potatoes. The rest is the potatoes. Like I said, I drafted. This is the DraftKings $555 tournament. I got 11 in. I was really angry. Last year I drafted 20, and this year I really did not time it well. It closed way before I thought it was going to close, and I screwed that up. But nonetheless, 11 teams. 2 are currently advancing. Here's what I'll say. One of them is, I think it's gonna die this week. It's not technically a lock to die, but let's do that one first. Josh Allen, Cam Ward. So good week for Josh Allen for sure. Tracy on bye. Dobbins out. Braylon out. Sampson, I think, is gonna be out. Keaton, sure, like please maybe somehow score a touchdown. Sean Tucker, Bucky is back. Damian Pierce, not going to be active. Isaiah Davis is going to stand and watch Breece Hall all week. Up by 8 points. What I will say about this team, however, pretty gnarly wide receivers. Chase, JMO. So if anything somehow happens to get this team through, and Tyron Tracy's fine to have it running back, right? It's just a miracle, by some miracle, before week 15 that this could get through, because Chase, JMO, Abuka, Rashee Rice, Khalil Shakir, Leggett, Alec Iomanner, Troy Franklin at wide receiver, with Trey McBride and Chig at tight end. It could be fun. It's a sweat. I'm sweating the Rashee teams for sure. I think this one might die on the vine in week 14, but it's not over. What I will say, the team that I'm probably sweating the most for the next, well, certainly for I think it's going to get through, right? This team is in second, but it's up by 91. Should be fine. So in week 15, the team that I'm going to be like thinking about and like caring about, right? We all kind of fixate on there's some team we fell in love with, or it's our higher stakes team or whatever. This is my, like, it's both. But also what's fun about this team you see here on the left-hand side of your screen is myself and Rob Coakley and Bernie Kurt, Spike Weekers. If you recall, we did a slow draft in a 5-5-5, and we put out videos for the first like 12 or so rounds of this draft. It was the fastest 5-5-5 you've ever seen in your entire life. It literally finished in like a week. So we weren't able to get videos out for every single pick, but we recorded, right? We drafted this together and we recorded all of our picks, and it is advancing and it's pretty solid. So it is a solo Josh Allen team at quarterback. Obviously, that means no other quarterback. I'm a little bit worried about Josh Allen's playoff schedule, but nonetheless, if anybody can power through some rough matchups, it's Josh Allen. It does have Jahmyr Gibbs. And I will also say that we took Trey McBride. So we started without early wide receivers. At running back, you'll see the name we talked about before show up, but it's not bad. It's not bad at running back. Of course, Gibbs, but Sharbs, Bill, Trey Benson, Tyler Algier, Kyle Monungai, and Kendre Miller. Womp womp. But it has at wide receiver, it's not awesome, but not bad. T-Mac, Tedero McMillan, Rashee Rice, Chris Olave, Josh Downs, Keon Coleman, Luther Burden, Josh Palmer, Elik Eilmanor, Torrey Horton, and Jordan Whittington. So some misses from within there, but overall a pretty strong team, especially for this tournament that I'm pretty damn excited about getting that one through. That'll be a fun sweat. And I'm sure you guys can join myself and Rob on Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern as we will start to sweat the playoffs and week 15 specifically. Just two more super quickly. This one's down by a good clip. This one is funny because if anyone here watched my 555 stream that I did over the summer, that was embarrassing at the time. And now I don't know if it's embarrassing or good or even more embarrassing, but this is my Darren Waller auto pick team. And yes, it's within, it's within striking distance. It does have Jahmyr Gibbs and it's going to need Lamar. I think ultimately it's going to need Lamar and Zay. It also is going to need Kyle Monangai. Maybe Tajay could fill the RB2 spot, but T-Mac on bye. So Zay really has to do something. You have Olave, Juwan is on bye. So it's pretty thin. It's pretty thin, though. McBride, Fannin, and Waller is pretty good at tight end. Lastly, one more that I'm excited about is 31 points back. I think this one is the Waller bye team is our good friend Shuby, who is a best ball sicko in the Spike Week Discord and occasionally in the YouTube chat, is advancing in the Waller team group. Good team, except all his running backs are dead, I think. And then this team, I believe Hawker, who is also in the Spike Week Discord, is advancing in this one. I don't think I can catch him in here, even though we're only down by 32, but I don't think we can catch him here. However, Jaden Daniels is going to play this week, which gave this one some life. So Jaden Daniels, Brock Purdy, of course, on bye, Jonathan Taylor, Zach Charbonnet, Braylon Allen, Dylan Sampson, again, Kyle Monangai, Sean Tucker, Taj Brooks. So, some hits, some misses, mostly misses, but at least we got JT, Sharbs, Monangai, Sampson is like, okay. Sean Tucker, of course, came through big with particularly one big game, but a couple of useful games. Does have CeeDee Lamb, so we banked the CeeDee Lamb score. And now we got Devontae, Debo, Olave, Mooney, the aforementioned Dante Thornton, and Torrey Horton, Elik Eilmanor, Kavontae Turpin, and of course it has Tucker Kraft, so womp, he is out for the season, but it does have George Kittle. So we're taking a 0 at tight end. That's why it's going to be very difficult to get this one through. But those are my higher stakes sweats. Those are like kind of all my sweats that you guys saw here. If you would like to look at your sweats that you have going, you can subscribe to Spike Week Premium at the link in the description. It is just $39.99 a month or $200 for the entire year, calendar year, 365 days. And as I mentioned, we cover all the stuff, right? NBA and March Madness best ball, and you get access to the Discord, which you can also join for just $5 if you would like. There is a link on the website here under the subscribe tab there. We're doing everything for the Best Ball Sickos, and it's the best time of the year for the Best Ball Sickos. I appreciate you guys joining. This was a ton of fun, and as I mentioned, we'll be back on Monday. And sneak peek, I'm recording a season recap and playoff preview with our good friend Pat Corain on Monday as well. So be on the lookout for that. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy the conference championship games in college football. And of course, enjoy your week 14 sweats. If you have any questions or you want to share some of your sweats, put those in the comments. I reply to every single comment. So if you have anything you would like to share, if you would prefer not to put them there, you can drop them in the Discord. There's a link to the Discord in the description. By all means, hit me up there and I will happily have a fun conversation about, like I said, the best time of year. Join me on Roto Grinders on Sunday morning if you'd like to talk some DFS. Otherwise, join myself and Rob on Monday night to really get in to the playoff best ball sweat, or the best ball playoff sweat. See, I screwed it up myself. I screwed up the playoff best ball versus best ball playoff stuff. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday. Cheers.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.